Hey, the main man here with another episode of the Vintage House Show, the best talk show on the business and history of house music. You're listening to the at-home edition of the Vintage House Show. We're normally broadcasting inside the studio of WNUR 89.3 FM, Evanston, Chicago, Northwestern Radio. But of course, during the pandemic, we are at home. And we are on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitch. So thanks everyone that tunes in every week. And for those tuned in tonight, because we have a powerhouse panel.
Ooh, nice.
I am, again, Mega, and the Vintage House Show is also a podcast. You can check us out with past episodes at VintageHouseShow.com. We're powered by the Modern Advanced Music Research and Archiving Foundation, which is the only repository in the United States dedicated solely to study the preservation and the celebration of the genre of house and dance music. Our mission, in short, is to preserve the memories, the memorabilia, the stories, and all that support the sustainability of the culture of house music. Tonight's guests are, again, that powerhouse panel that I promised, starting with the one, the only DJ Greg Winfield. How are you, Greg?
How's it going?
All right.
Yeah.
Glad to have you back with us on the Vintage House Show.
Glad to be here.
And we're anxious to hear about your latest projects and endeavors. So stay tuned for that all. From one DJ to another DJ, we move to DJ NFinite, aka TW. How are you, sir?
Hey, Kevin, how you doing? Hey, DJ Mega, how are you?
It's good to have you back.
Yes, it's good to be back. I think I was here for the first show.
You were the Mega takeover in the show.
Yeah. You know what? You had caught me when I first got back from Africa, and I was still processing like everything, you know. And your new show, I didn't know what to do when I got back here with myself, man. But it's really good to be back.
So we'll get back in that discussion and make sure that you kept that promise. And also from that same first Mega Takeover show and other returning guests in the Chow Show, it is Lee Pearson Jr. of the Lee Pearson Jr. Collective, a DJ, a lyricist, a songwriter, producer. What do you have, Lee?
I'm sorry, I'm getting a little echo, so let me see if I can eliminate that a little bit. I'm sorry, can you read that one more time for me, please?
What did I leave out in your list of duties?
Do an overall patriot of the arts, a love of the arts, man, and I just want to contribute as best possible.
Dope. I appreciate that, and we definitely appreciate your contributions as well as those of all of our guests on tonight's episode of Vintage House. We've got a couple of topics we want to cover, but of course, first, for those tuning in who may not be as familiar with our guests, we want to ensure that you all get a little bit of the background, the story of our guests. And we're going to start with you, Lee, and tell us about your origins, whether you're Chicagoan, what high school, and then you can get into some of the career trajectory that you've been on.
All right, so Chicago through and through, born and raised. First and foremost, high school. My fellow pioneer, as in DJ Mega from St. Francis de Sales would have been my high school. St. Felicitas was grammar school. But nonetheless, that's where I attended high school.
The pioneers.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Early on, as far as the music thing, man, for as long as I can remember, just the passion and the love, I always just kind of magnated to it. Family DJ early on. I found myself a selector before I knew what a selector was. And just kind of curating, and folks always enjoying my selections of music. So did the DJ thing more so in a little bit of high school, but it really became more official once I went away to college at Illinois State University.
ISU.
Yes, ISU. And out of that, man, it really kind of facilitated itself, and it kind of, I discovered it at a whole nother level once I did that. So program for the radio station at ISU, WGLT, and folks were just always giving me a lot of love for the stuff that I was playing. I played a lot of the parties on campus, off campus, the whole nine. So after college, I kind of put the music thing down because that's when my parents were like, okay, now we need you to get a job. So out of that, I went into the corporate world, which I still participate in, nonetheless, though, but I still kind of navigate that along with my passion and love for music. So the whole music thing kind of, as far as starting to write and produce, that came about probably mid to latter 80s. I would probably say latter 80s, and some chance meetings with some folks. I'll not do all the name dropping, but out of that, some of my early works, along with my very close friend and collaborator, Erwin McEwen. He's in the room, but he's just not in front of the camera. But nonetheless, we had some early opportunities to compose with Larry Hurd, Mr. Fingers. And out of that opened up some other opportunities for us. So we did stuff with him, which we continue to write with him today. And hopeful, there'll be some stuff to come out down the road with that. Done some stuff with Marshall Jefferson, various other folks, man. And then kind of coming into our own in recent years, whereas I go under the moniker of the Lee Pearson Jr. Collective. So I've got a current release out. I guess we'll talk about that at some point. But nonetheless, it's been a storied thing thus far, and I'll turn it over to one of the other guys. I don't want to take it all over in my own right.
Well, one question for you, Lee. What community, what neighborhood did you start in?
I grew up in the Avalon Park area.
Avalon Park. All right.
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Yep.
Thank you for being on the show and for sharing that we'll get into the career.
Sure.
But it's definitely a powerful one. DJ NFinite, you've got one as well. Talk about where you live, high school, and how you got started.
All right, so how I got started DJing, and can you guys hear me clearly? Because someone said the audio was low. Is it better now? Okay,
Better.
great.
Yes.
Okay, great. So from the west side of Chicago, 60644. Hello, John Young, and all of my people from the 60644 Resurrection. Hello, Craig Hill and them. Ricky Lenore and them, all those guys from back in the day. I got my DJ start watching my uncles have a friend that came over. They called him Red Dog. Red Dog was one of the neighborhood DJs that loved sound in his music, sound in his car. So he would drive around in his Datsun pickup truck with massive sound playing, 117 and Status Force, You Ain't Really Down. And, it just sounded so good. So one day we had a party at the house. He brought his 12s and a mixer, and he was getting down. And I'm like, yo, what the heck is going on? And so from that day, I was kind of hooked. Then my friend that went to school at up in Evanston, who's now an actor, two of my friends, actually, Wood Harris and his brother, Steve. Yeah, Steve. Those guys went up there. And I actually learned how touched my first technique, B100, in the bedroom of Wood Harris. So, he had a set mixer, and he had 5 records. I think it was Mix Your Own Stars, Conk. You guys remember that song?
Yeah.
Do What You Want With Your Life. And that's where it all started for me. Yeah, it started for me there, working my way, to the bedrooms, always pretending to be on the radio. Hot Mix 5 is my favorite. WNUR, 89.3. What's that? KKC also. What's my favorite? WBMX was an influence. Worked my way, kind of stumbled into radio. It was just kind of one of those situations, a coincidence that I had started back in 2009. I put the turntables down for a while from like 2001, 2000 to, take my spiritual walk. Then it picked it back up in 2009, 2008, when I asked my younger brother what he wanted to do with his life. And he was like, I want to be a DJ like you, because he remembered all the times, I was in the bedroom doing what I did. And I was like, all right, cool. And, we went out and bought some equipment. And to this day, here I am, like I said, stumbled into radio by chance because of something happened at one of the radio stations. And they were, getting ready to let go some other DJs, and they wanted to bring on somebody else. And so a friend of mine, Angela Hongo, was working for one of the producers at the show. He asked me to submit a mix, and the rest is history. I mean, I can go into more details.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that story. Little other additional backstory. We worked together for a bit at the
Johnson Publishing Company. That's right.
Along with Angie Congo, who was with Passion there.
Yes. Hey, Kev, did you one time? You remember when Beyonce dancers came to the city?
Of course I do.
I brought my turntables that day. I thought that we were gonna rock out that day. I swear to God, I brought my turntables. They were in the office. I was ready, man. I was ready.
I bring that picture up often. Last but not least of the introduction of tonight's panel, we have the man, DJ Greg Winfield. Come on off mute and tell us about how you got your start, your origins in the Chicago market, and of course your high school.
I hope you guys got a pillow. No, I'm just kidding. And I just was fortunate, as you know, my brother Benny Winfield was part owner of 206 Jefferson Street, the warehouse. And I was a kid. I remember my sister's Sweet 16 party being there. I was 12, and never knew that those would be the first turntables that I actually got the DJ on. So I had a family member. I had a cousin who I just buried my uncle last week, and my cousin who taught me how to DJ. He lives in L.A. now. He's been there for years. But I'll never forget. I was coming out of 8th grade. This was about he was a big time guy at Southern Illinois. With Kappa Carnival, and he used to run the radio station at Southern. So he was like, "Hey man, it's this new thing coming out, and I want to, show you." And what happened? I went in like a little Tutelage, and I would go over his house every day. He didn't live far from me, and I would go over there after school and practice. And this went on for about 2 or 3 years. And about junior year in high school, I was about 17 years old. I started.
High school was that great?
Well, I went to Brother Rice. I started at Quigley South, and then wound up graduating from Brother Rice. But I lived in the Morgan Park area. I'm from 93rd and Bishop, Washington, Brainerd Park area. But once you had a skill set, we talking, 80s, early 80s, coming out of the 70s and the 80s. Once people really saw that you could actually mix. It was like people were fascinated, and you got people asking you to come DJ here, come DJ there. It wasn't like what we have now. It's all known in Chicago. Probably you probably know 200 DJs in Chicago. Seriously, that can go around the world and dominate. It's just something we produce. We produce good DJs, and at that time the market was small. And, I started there, but what gave me a nice catapult was I helped put together the mix show for KKC in '84. We put the competition out there, and it was myself. I was there. Then Brian Frazier came along, Hugo came along. Walter Brown was kind of like the running the station, but he was there, and along with this young gentleman named Sheldon Mega House. Good dude. But that right there, man, it like threw us on the south side. It was crazy for us after that. And, you know, I just began to do so many different parties after that. But my move into house really came as I got to DJ and my brother started coming around me more. At that time, the power plant had just opened. And my brother was like, I want you to come down and meet the DJ. You know, me not knowing, you know, I'm naive running around, whatever the case may be. But of course, that DJ was the legendary Frankie Knuckles. And I got the honor to, you know, sometime go and sit in the DJ booth and observe, you know, one of the greatest DJs and producers play. You know, and that just was the beginning of my tutelage and me getting off the ground. I mean, I could keep going. Me and Lee's connections come. I was a Tony Hatchett disciple. So when I came out of high school, I used to travel the college circuit, and Tony used to take me around to battle.
Nice.
Battle DJs and not even knowing. This is what's funny about this story. Lee was down there, but Lee was the judge of the DJs, and it is what it is at this point. He's family to me, so I really don't care about it. I understood his method and what he had to do, but Lee knew clearly that I just dog walk. You know, it was a setup. There's
there's two sides to every story.
so what's cool about it is that you know, after, you know, going and doing all that, bottom line is here we are 40 something years later, you know, we like family, you know. That's what's funny about it. We're beyond just the DJing and producing part, you know. This is crazy world, but that kind of helped define, you know, me coming out of there, going and doing that. It kind of changed the pace for me, coming from, you know, what the hot mixing scene was, to go see Frankie Knuckles, who basically knew how to give you the song.
What do you mean by that? Give you the song? Can you?
Well, you got to feel every part of it. You got to feel it from the beginning all the way to the end. You know?
It had nothing to do with the sound system.
Oh, the sound system was off the chain. That was a killer. That was 9 amps under the bottom. You know, I mean, that was something else. And sometimes he would only have on 6 of them. So, but along with it, you know, most of the time people didn't play a song from the beginning to the end. So it always left you something to hold on to, you know. And that was the part that I started listening to, just like any other DJ on the house scene grasped onto, to give the people something to hold on to when they listen to that song. You got a full meaning and understanding, because I know as we go through this panel, you're going to know that there's a message in the music.
I'm going to take some personal liberty as a host and talk about one of the experiences of my understanding of what you just described. When I went to the warehouse and Frankie played Go Bang, it was a crushing spiritual experience. I mean, I understand exactly what you're describing about the journey he took you.
Yeah. Yes. So, and I mean, just moving forward from there, you guys might know I've played on all guest spots on all major radio stations. I have played various parties here in Chicago, elsewhere, overseas. I mean, I've had a feel. I'm pretty blessed to be connected to a lot of people who are doing, you know, the same as me and even greater than me. And I'm just fortunate to be where I'm at and living the dream like anybody else, even Lee and Infinite as well. So I'm glad I'm here.
Well, it's definitely an honor to have you and all of our guests on the show tonight. And thanks for setting up the backstory as we get into some of the discussion of tonight's topics. Really light tonight. You know, last week the show aired after what, you know, the country and the world had experienced for the first time, this attack on the modern day democracy, as well as a manifestation of what many of us in our community already knew. This dude was a nut job, right? And he has a band of people that are following him in his outrageous beliefs and ideologies. And so tonight we're going to bring it back to center, if you will, and talk really about the importance of what's coming up on next Monday, January 18th, which is the celebration of the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It's important that we honor his spiritual leadership as well as his academic and civic leadership. And of course, those words don't even embody all that he did. But house music has certainly adopted and really settled in on the legacy of Dr. King in many of his speeches. We hear within the context of tracks, within mixes, the names of mixes, the names of songs that have been inspired by the legacy of Dr. King. So for the panel, can you talk about, I mean, it's sort of implied in anyone not living under a rock for the last 40 years understands the impact of Dr. King, but can you talk about it in the context of why house music has really glommed on to Dr. King's message? Lee, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm willing to go first.
The lyricist on the panel tonight.
I take it from the perspective of expression and free expression, and around how with house and dance music, when you think about its infancy and how it came, and disco's revenge and all of that, basically in that, whereas he spoke to just kind of the freedom and recognizing all. When you think about, the whole rainbow aspect of what have you, he wanted to acknowledge all. So out of that, well, there are several aspects of that he wanted to acknowledge, but particularly that. So with the house music piece, in my mind, and them utilizing a lot of his, excerpts from his speeches and things of that nature, we were going through that whole freedom aspect too. When you think about going to the warehouse, the original warehouse, so on and so forth, some of the crazy things that I remembered were how folks expressed themselves in their attire, how they expressed themselves, and how they allowed the music to consume them, so on and so forth. So I kind of think that that's just one aspect of, like I said, there's a full spectrum of it, but that's the particular piece that stands out for me about how his suggesting, hey, we are free and we need to be free and we need to be acknowledged as such. I saw that same thing and lived through it musically. So to see that and have that was kind of like awesome. And that kind of is the tie-in for me. Like I said, I could go on and on. I'll turn it over to the other brothers, but that's where it stood out for me.
All right, thanks for that. Infinite?
For me, I would say unity and diversity. House music and Martin Luther King, it's almost like it's synonymous, and you're right. Listening to those MLK speeches over a house track just does something for your spirit. And I think that's something that, if you were, privy to that, those things happening in the time that it was happening, I think that, we all can, agree that it resonated really well. And even moving forward, with tracks, like you said, people make music about love. And, that's what we get from house music. There's a lot of love, and maybe it could be from the beats, the BPMs, the beats per minute that, it elevates your heart. And then the melodies that the producers put together and how it takes you on this euphoric, it gives you this euphoric feeling. And just takes you out of your body, out of your mind, and you're just one with the rhythm.
I love the reference to a level of euphoria that you described. Certainly, the combination of tracks with the message, and it depends on the track sometimes, about how it amplifies and elevates the message even more than the already magnificent words, Dr. King. I'm curious, Greg, from your perspective, what do you believe to be that impact and influence of Dr. King's words as used or laid over house music?
Well, you know, one of the things I always, when it comes to house music, and I even think about Dr. King, I think about his roots of how he was with the church. You know, I mean, he was a spiritual man who set forth to change and put Black people and Black fathers to the head or into the mainstream of society. So that tie-in with him and house music and what he's saying, it's just a whole based on the community. The house community is like a church. It's to come as you are. You know, it's the freedom to express. And if you think about the nonviolent part of Dr. King, and even when you think about the nonviolent part of house music, you know, it's like a combination that was just made to be together. It's very powerful, and you know, I tied into that a heck of a lot when it comes to his movement, his words, and house music. You know, because this still is a movement as well. You know, so it's like you can't go without it. You know, when we know coming up this week, there's going to be something going on, streaming or whatever the case may be, where you're going to hear Dr. King. It has to. It's the only way we can continue that message to go. Where, because like you say, from looking at what happened on Capitol Hill, we still 2 steps almost back to where we were when he was here. So it is important, you know, it's important to keep that message going, and house music is the best way to deliver it.
That's a great observation, right? That great in that you brought it to light. Terrible in that, you know, 40 years later, you know, the society has taken steps backwards. And your point about this being an important way to reinforce and reimagine his message is critical. It's a creative way, and what we try to do a lot here on the Vintage House Show, at least for 2021, is to ensure that the next generation, those who've got next, those who are going to be entrusted with sustaining this genre we all know and love, you know, that they have all of these aspects of the genre and understand, you know, the whys, right? Why is it that the speeches of Dr. King are interlaced in so many of our mixes and songs, and tracks and club experiences, right? So you guys keep dropping the knowledge about it. How are you going to each spend Dr. King's holiday on Monday the 18th?
For me, it's always just kind of a, you know, just what I want to say, acknowledgement more so than anything, and how being thankful for his drive, his acknowledgement, and his importance and his messages, because it just helped us in so many ways. It just kind of reinforced us as a people. So every now and again, I kind of feel like his messages pulled us up by the bootstraps. So probably more so than anything, an acknowledgement of all of what he contributed, and then secondarily to make sure that I reach out to my children and my family to just ensure, strongly suggest that they acknowledge his contributions as well, and how it's helped to mold us in a positive way.
Yep. Yeah, thanks for that. Are you working on Monday? Is it
Absolutely not.
day off? Okay. Yeah. How about you, Greg?
Absolutely work.
You'll be at work.
Yeah, but here's what I'll tell you.
Yes,
There's another side of me that a lot of people don't know about. I volunteer at 90 WNUR. I'm going to speak to some individuals in the morning who, as my sister Celeste Alexander would say, need some direction.
Okay.
You know,
talk about it.
I as a community, we have been blinded with so many different, how we say, distractions, and it's at a point now where we unconsciously don't even know how to get up. And they need to. You just can't talk about it. You got to walk it. You know, you got to be it, and they have to see it. So so part of my my movement on Monday is to make sure I touch somebody. I'm gonna try to change the world one person at a time.
I like that.
There's one young individual, one young black man, one young black woman, whatever I need to do to get that message in there. And part of it will be based on Dr. King, because Dr. King's message was to get the black man into the mainstream of society. So I live that every day.
And if I can clarify, I'm sorry, when you asked me about working, I thought in the corporate sense of working. I agree with Greg about what he said about the true work to be done. I agree 1,000%.
Yeah, no, I mean, it wasn't intended to be a trick question or double entendre there. It was, I was asking about, whether there was corporate work happening, or whether or not you were putting in the volunteer work. And so I appreciate both perspectives, that you will be taking the day off, and that certainly the service on Monday will be there to ensure that the legacy of Dr. King continues to live. And I certainly don't want to leave you out, Infinite.
I'm here.
What are your plans? What are your plans for Monday? How will you acknowledge?
Well, first of the top of the morning at 5 a.m. Eastern time, 6 a.m. Chicago time, Rick and Sasha show. There'll be a special MLK mix done specifically for that particular day. I'll probably go live on Facebook or Twitch or somewhere, which you can find me on www blah 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 Twitch TV, DJ Infinite. No Ivy for
the promote.
Huh?
Go ahead and promote.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'll be in the mix. I could probably put together something really nice, a nice little house mix. Let's see. Vince goes. John Young. I know John Young is going on at 12. Vince is consistently going on at 2. So we'll make it an evening thing. I'll make it an evening thing. I'll go on about 6 after dinner, after I feed my kitties, and we'll put something together for the house people at 7 p.m. Chicago time.
What time was that?
7 p.m.
Yeah. And so everyone's clearly committed to celebrating the legacy of service and leadership that Dr. King embodied. And we, encourage everyone tuned in tonight to, of course, honor that legacy as well. In any way you choose to, let us know about it. Drop it in the comments. Maybe there's some volunteer opportunity that those of us on the panel could also lend our time, talent, and treasures to. Let us know how you will celebrate Dr. King's legacy on Monday. And so as we continue our discussion, I want to ensure that the panelists have an opportunity to do what Tommy was just doing, DJ Infinite, in talking about some of the current projects, initiatives, whatever you have in terms of your online sessions, or even if you're doing something in person, share with our audience tonight, where can we check you out? Let's go back to you, Greg, and then over to Lee.
Yeah, currently got a couple projects I'm working on. You know anything about me? I like to do my gospel. I'm working with a couple of different artists at this time. Doing a collabo too with my couple of my brothers, Ryan Frazier and Danny Wilson. Also my boy Vince Russell. And then on Saturdays I do a live on it's on Twitch and YouTube and Mixcloud. It's just DJ Greg Winfield. I do it 1 in the afternoon from 1 to 3, and I have various guests. And then I do appear on other shows too as well, which will be advertised on social media. So, yeah, but that's what I've been doing right now, and that's I think that's going to be the way it's going to be going for a while.
Well, how have you overall adjusted to this virtual world that we've moved to?
Well, change is change. I've had to, put together, the proper equipment to make sure that everything is intact. And I mean, it was quite an adjustment. I mean, it was trial and error, from the start of people just trying to go with their phones to, going through a whole setup now where, you got all different interfaces to get the quality that you want. For me, I just suggest to people to make sure that they got a good surround sound at home or some type of system, that can give you the feel of house music that you want, because this is going to be the way for a while. And if you clearly want to enjoy what you love, which I know most people do, make sure you treat yourself the right way.
There's some wisdom, some nuggets being dropped by Greg Winfield there. We appreciate that. And, sometimes we get technical. You want to go into a bit of the detail about what it takes to stream a quality audio when you're doing live stream sets?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much, I use a different kind of interface. I use a regular studio interface with my OBS setting. It gives a whole different sound. I use GoPro cameras to get a better quality picture, and I even have extra lighting. I even have, of course, I got some disco lights, but I even have additional lighting depending on what I'm doing to, give clarity to what's happening in here. So, you sometimes with this whole internet deal you got going, you're gonna come off, putting in a pretty big buck if you're looking for that sound. If you want to make sure that you got people that's gonna continue to come and listen and like what they hear, if they got the right hookup in the house, they're gonna want to listen to your show.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah, it's just like at the club, and you playing at the club, if anybody, most DJs, just like you said, most DJs are we're into what we sound like. You don't want to try to take one speaker and play 3,500 square feet. You want to make sure that you got the right quality sound, and it might look like you got a lot, but it's not that. It's the person that's driving it, and it's the same setup with your interfaces and your sound systems for internet shows. You want to have the right interface and right equipment for what you're doing. You don't want to sound like you're in a wet paper bag. Right. Believe it or not, I went through that myself. I mean, I've had 3 different interfaces. So
test and learn, right?
Yeah, yes, trial and error.
But definitely appreciate you again sharing some of the insights with our audience tonight, and wanted to pop over the Lee Pearson Jr. and the Lee Pearson Jr. Collective, because he's dropping some musical nuggets this week, I believe.
Yeah. All right. So I'll do the shameless plug here, which is my current release, which is Lee Pearson Jr. Collective. Let's see if I can get you a good view in there. There you go. And with this is a tune called Start Today, and it's out on vinyl. It came out just less than 30 days ago. It is available if you just Google Lee Pearson Jr. Collective. So here again, it's available as vinyl as it stands today. However, it will be a digital release not too far off in the distant future, but we're working to allow the vinyl to exhaust that first and foremost, and then we'll go with the digital portion of it. A song that I'm very proud of that I co-wrote with my friend Erwin McEwen, and along with some other folks who participated in the production overall. But we're looking forward to it. So as mentioned, got some other stuff in the marketplace as well, but this is our most recent release. Most of my time is focused more so on production and releases, whereas I did come from the DJ realm, and I do have mixes. I have some mixes archived on Mixcloud. We also have material available via Bandcamp. So if you were to Google the Lee Pearson Jr. Collective via Bandcamp, you'll find some of our archived material. But I'm really focused on dropping new music during the course of 2021 and going forward. And that's pretty much what I kind of want to focus on, is production, because I love writing quality songs. As my buddy would say, good art. That's what I really want to participate in, and ideally have it be enjoyed by a global audience.
You got big aspirations there, Lee Pearson Jr.
Why not?
I can appreciate that. As we know, house is a global movement, and so those ambitions and aspirations will certainly manifest themselves. In fact, tuned in tonight, we've got audience members from around the world, and certainly some of the other pioneers of house music have joined in. Thanks for tuning in. We got Jesse Saunders, Terry Hunter, Lady D checking in, and overall, we are certainly appreciative of all of the contributions, and certainly all of those folks are friends of the Vintage House Show as well. And Infinite, you did share with us what you've got going on for Monday, King's Holiday. Would you share a little bit about how our audience can tune in and check you out? You are obviously the mix show DJ for
Rick and Sasha.
Yeah, Rick and Sasha.
Yeah, Rick and Sasha show. They're a nationally syndicated show. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go.
Oh, okay, yeah, nationally syndicated show. I usually catch them through the app when I need to listen to the show. I usually catch it through the app 107.3 KC Magic, Kansas City. Or either you could just type in Google Rick and Sasha's morning show, and then it'll give you links and everything to the different places where it's broadcast. So that's going on. I also do Zoom events. I do private Zoom events. As a matter of fact, I just finished up last week an event for the Special Olympics, and from that I'm going to start a non-for-profit. I'm trying to figure out a way how to give the parents a break. Put their family members in front of the Zoom screen, and now do a set, like a 2-hour set. They can sit with me and we'll just rock out. I'm trying to figure out how to make that look and feel, and where I can just do it for free, and still be able to find the fun someplace else. You know what I mean? Also, back to the Zoom events. I also did 2 weeks ago, I did the District of Columbia Housing Authority. Ben Carson, they were all there. 500 people. I did this online. It was really, really, really a whole bunch of fun. So yeah, you can catch me at www.djinfinite.com and book your event, and we can rock out with whatever genre that you want. Also, let's see what else I got going on. Like I said, the Rick and Sasha, the Zoom events, Special Olympics, and everything. Yeah, that's where I'm at. www.djinfinite.com.
All right.
Hello, Terry, and hello, Jesse. Jesse, I don't know if you guys noticed that Jesse was saying that this is the 37th anniversary on and on. And I actually had that queued up right before we even started any of this, and it's actually kind of funny. So it's really cool that we're all in sync here.
Craig Loftus and Linda Remix Boy also tuned in to tonight's Vintage House Show, all friends of the show, which takes us to our next topic. We're in 2021, 14 days in, or 13, give or take a day. And, Greg, you mentioned that we're going to be in this virtual space, for a minute. And certainly we agree with that, and certainly have all begun to adapt. But what other trends, particularly from the creative perspective, maybe from the mixing styles that we have with some of these virtual sessions, any of those aspects of the movement, could you talk a little bit about, looking into the crystal ball, the foreseeable future? What will the trends be for house music in 2021? And audience that are watching, and of course Tommy's got his not quite crystal ball, but what do you think will be some of what we see and experience, beyond the continuation of virtual delivery of our genre? What do you see? And shout out to DJ John Young.
Well,
go first.
One of the things I know that will have to happen, and you'll see it more when it comes to the DJs, that it's about I won't say just the lineup, it's about the creation of what they're doing in the virtual set. You're going to see that change even more too. And what I'm saying is probably, how would you say, the look, of what's going on in the background or what's going on around them. There's going to be more of, I guess, how would you say, effects maybe, in the sense of how do you keep people interested, how you keep people going outside of the music, but you want to find, there's going to be ways that they find more and more to hype, the scene, and to even get people to get more involved, more people to join in. It's just like back in the day, who had the livest set? You're gonna be at that set. So the part to watch to see how it evolves. We didn't see somebody have one dancer on the stage, and there's going to be some things that come more creative with that. Whether they have people with their own rooms or where they're dancing, or it's going to be a little more creative than what we've seen in the last year. It's not going to be just as much of one person just standing behind a turntable DJing all day and everybody watching. So.
I like that prediction, as we've gotten a little bit of a taste of that through some of these virtual sessions. And certainly, once again, technology is helping evolve the experience and evolve the movement, right? With green screens to multiple streaming platforms. OBS expertise is certainly another dimension of skill that DJs have to have in addition to their mixology. Tommy, what do you see in 2021?
Some of the same things that you're saying. You're seeing the merging of technology and DJing. You're getting, guys, we're turning to IT specialists, right now, real time. We're turning to IT specialists because we have to get these streaming platforms together. We have to figure out which one's the right one. Just like earlier, I guess the sound was echoing. I had to go in and change the settings. I literally just did that now, and I think I sound clearer, right? Do I sound clear?
It worked. Yes.
See, that's what I'm saying. So that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, we got to figure things out on the fly. And not only that, what you're going to get coming out in 2021 and pretty much when some of this stuff is over, is that you're going to have more producers. You're going to have new producers, people who have had time on their hands to sit in the house to either teach themselves or get the lessons, needed from YouTube in order to be able to produce their own tracks. So you're going to see an influx of more DJs and more producers. And just like, we have some of the guys that have been on top, the Terrys and the Mike Duns and who else? And I'm loving what I'm seeing from Mortimer Snurd, aka Steve Maestro. Loving what I'm seeing with him. Our singers here are, homegrown right here. Sherry Hicks, you know what I mean? You're going to see more of those, rising. What's the girl name over in South Africa? Vanessa Jackson. Have you guys heard her yet? Anyway, but yeah, you're going to get a lot of that. Now, 2 years ago, I thought that we would really be on the South African thing big time. Because the music I heard when I was there, coming out of there, I was just like, oh my God, once they get 5G, there's no stopping them. And but it still hasn't rolled out. But even with some of the things that we play, I hear that there's been a mix of it all. So you're going to see a lot of great music coming out in 2021.
All right. Thanks, Tommy. Over to you, Lee.
What both gentlemen just stated, I concur 1,000%. They spoke to a lot of key pieces that I agree with. However, I'm going to continue as we move forward to hang on what's most important, which is to make and produce good music that has survivability. And I think that's really a key for not only 21, but going forward, period. The music has still got to be solid. It's still got to be good art. It's still got to be engaging. It's still got to move the crowd. You could never get away from that being the base of what we're doing in this music thing. So that's how you get to have your vintage house and the classics, the stuff today that becomes classics down the road, so on and so forth. So I'm still pushing for and hopeful that 21 and beyond, the future still represents great music that has some impact and love that audiences will still gravitate to.
Impact and love, indeed. The genre of house music is certainly filled with love, peace, unity, spirituality. What do you think will happen with some of the subgenres of house music? Do you think they'll be elevated? Things, genres like gospel house?
That's an interesting question. And to be honest, only time will really tell. I think that when you've got a piece of music that it speaks to the heart, so to speak, then irregardless of what its title is, what subgenre or anything of the sort, if it's of impact and magnitude, it's going to reveal itself and the audiences will feel it and embrace it.
So a comment from the audience, Leonard Remix Roy talks about time not being on our side. Certainly not, I'm sure, not in the context of 2021, but to the commentary of ensuring that this genre is sustainable for generations to come. We're got a session going right after the Vintage House show called the Vintage House Spotlight. And in the Spotlight, we showcase both new and emerging DJs. And the hosts of the Vintage House Spotlight are two young people, Justin Alexander and DJ VD Girl. And so I encourage everyone that is tuned into the Vintage House to ensure that you pop over to the Vintage House Spotlight, because there we are doing our part to try to ensure that time marches on, if I could use that.
Come on. That's it.
Expression. So Roy, Leonard, not to worry. Also from the comments, DJ Purple, Reggie Davenport also chimes in to suggest that you have to make records that you find yourself playing every week, if not every day. And I know that you guys are doing some of that. Greg, can you talk a little bit about your remix or production work?
Yeah, well, I know what Lee was just talking about, and you guys were talking about. You know, I'm kind of more leaning in that gospel area. I mean, it has evolved. It is moving faster than most people expected. Uh, so I don't see. I know it is about, just like Lee said, it's about making good music. You know, good music is the key to it. The success of house music, yeah, we are getting older, but at the same time, we do have producers. I mean, just like now, Terry's got a #1 song that just from Avant. So
yeah,
it is touching the younger crowd, you know. And I think I go back to everything when we started on this show about talking about Dr. King. You know, what has house music produced? It has produced nonviolent. I mean, there's you can think about what parties you went to where there was an issue with house music. That's why most of the bars in the city of Chicago wanted a house music night, because it probably was the only peaceful night that they could have. So I wouldn't say that we, you know, because we're getting older. Yeah, I love for it, not passion. As is a little different, but as you see people become more seasoned in their lives, you'll see the house music still merges and continues to flow. So, as far as me and my projects, you know, I got a couple. I'm working with a lady by the name of Fran Harris, a gospel track right now. As that keeps moving, like I say, I'm in collabo with a couple other guys that we're working with that. And you know, I think that's the key movement, just like Lee said, and just like Infinite said. You know, we got more time on our hands, and we're at home, and we're able to, you know, work on things that we wasn't able to work on in the past. You know, I'm gonna give my hat off to Lee. Lee has always been behind the scenes. People really don't know how long Lee has really been pushing and making music. You know, and he's just now, you know, popping out and acting like he's, you know, new. He ain't nowhere near new on the scene. He's been around a long time, doing a lot of good stuff, and his just due is here. So, yep. So, yep.
Lee, retort.
I appreciate that, brother. Much love. Much love.
Very good. Well, we're winding down the Vintage House Show hour, the most powerful hour on Wednesday nights. We got a lot going on, and I love the creativity that is happening around this show, and even during the 8, 7, 8, 9 o'clock hour Central Time. But again, to hear the stories of our guests, to understand their business victories and their challenges, that's what the Vintage House Show is all about. And so we're glad that you've tuned in. Of course, I occasionally refer to the nights I host as the Philosophical Grooves edition of Vintage House. And so with that, I always have some questions to ask our guests to make them think a little bit and to reveal a little bit about themselves that has nothing to do necessarily with house music sometimes. So I've got a couple of questions. And of course, because this is aligned with Dr. King's legacy that dominated a good part of our conversation, I want to talk about Dr. King's philosophy of nonviolent social change. There were 6 precepts to this philosophy of Dr. King: information gathering, education, personal commitment, negotiation, direct action, and number 6 was reconciliation. And so for each of our guests, the question for you would be, if you were to be challenged to live solely in one of Dr. King's 6 philosophies for nonviolent social change. Which of these 6 philosophies would you live by and why? So I'll run through the list again: information gathering, education, personal commitment, negotiation, direct action, and reconciliation. So I'm gonna go first to help you guys out and soften the blow here.
Thank
you. So I'm going to say I would live in the art of negotiation. Right, this is an area where I often seek to grow, personally in my own development. Right, and negotiation really as the art of bringing together your views and those of your opponent to arrive at a fair and just conclusion, to be able to clarify unresolved issues, at which point you have a formalized consensus. I'd love to live in Dr. King's philosophy of negotiation because there's so often opposing views, which is great, but those opposing views are often, they remain unresolved, right? You don't have to believe the same thing I believe, but you should be able to hear the other person's view. And so I would work to live in the philosophy of negotiation to ensure that the views of nonviolent social change can actually manifest in this world we live in today. So I'm sorry if I took someone else's philosophy that you were interested in, but there's 5 more left. And who wants to go next? I know Infinite.
I'm gonna grab one before it gets taken.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with personal commitment. And the reason why personal commitment is the one that I would go with is because that's kind of the foundational piece to cover all the other pieces of the 6 philosophies, at least in my mind. Because with personal commitment, then that allows you to, when the times are great and when the times are lean, as long as personal commitment and saying, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this done. I'm going to learn this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to have the drive for whatever it is. As long as the personal commitment is there, that's going to see you through, because there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be misery. There's going to be adversity, blah, 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 blah. But I feel like if you have a personal commitment, so in my instance around music and having a passion and love for it, it's truly my personal commitment that allows me to keep pushing through it all. And no, I'm not the top dog by no stretch of the imagination. However, my personal commitment is about being able to deliver at some point or another, knowing that this higher power has selected me to deliver in that manner. And my personal commitment is what makes the difference for me.
All right. I'm going to go round robin and go ahead and pick you, Infinite, to go next because we're running out of time. We got to get the spotlight crew in the building. I'm going to bring in VD Girl now as we begin to wrap this up.
So really quick, since he picked personal commitment, because wow, nonviolent. I don't know if we can get out of all this without being violent, because so much has been done. So information gathering.
Yeah,
I'm going to choose information gathering because I love getting information and getting the information to better myself. So I can pick that, and then I can also, once I get the information, I can kind of give it back to others younger than me and people that give it a different spin on it so that they can do what they need to do to keep them empowered and live productive lives non-violently.
Oh, all right. We heard you though on the violent tip. Greg Winfield, you have 3 choices left.
Give me those 3.
All right. We got education, we got direct action, and we got reconciliation.
Okay, so direct action. And just talking about direct action, you know, you got to think about the principle, just like Infinite just talked about nonviolence. The direct action, when you take direct action, what you come out of it with is what it is. You know, if you take that approach along with his nonviolent approach, you can come out with some friendships, you can come out with some understanding. I think that's a big part of being direct and taking charge on what you need to take charge with a nonviolent approach. It's just a way of life when you live in a world where you have to guide people. You have to be direct, but you have to be, how would you say it, where people can understand what's going on, where you're not like talking over or downplaying, or because we in a world right now as Black people where we struggle with certain stuff, authority, we struggle with commands, so the direct action is basically even a part of education. So, but I believe the direct action is first because somebody has to step up and somebody has to take control and try to do the right thing.
Appreciate you all honoring the philosophical grooves question. We know that as your decision to appear on this show, that you are people of intellect and great vision and creativity. And I like to, again, thank you for appearing on the show. I do have a direct action challenge for you right now, Greg, with our Vintage House Spotlight co-host and in the spotlight tonight, DJ VD Girl. What advice would you provide as a level of direct action to help this emerging DJ and artist continue to build and develop her platform?
No pressure, Greg.
No pressure at all. I mean,
just a little advice. That's all.
I'm sure you heard it before, but it's all about being persistent. It's all about even knowing, you know, when it looks down and it doesn't look, how would you say it, like it's going to be something that's positive, you know, because there'll be times like that. A lot of times there'll be more times like that, period. This is when you have to have the stamina and the persistence and the determination to keep driving. You know, if you only got one, that's better than none. You know, so depending on what you're doing and you believe in yourself. As a matter of fact, I don't even know where my sign is at, but I keep it on my DJ stand. Believe in yourself. If you believe in yourself, that's half the battle right there.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times it's easier said than done to tell you to believe in yourself, and then the minute someone knocks the wind out your sail, you're trying to regroup. If you put together a plan and you believe in that plan, you stick to that plan.
Right.
So, and the first and foremost part about you is you're already on the show, so you got half a step ahead of everybody already. So your drive is already there. It's just now taking it to the next level. That's all, and that's by you being determined to get there. That's it.
Absolutely. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm bringing in our co-host of the Vintage House Spotlight, Mr. Justin Alexander, and they're going to tell you a little bit about tonight's episode of the Vintage House Spotlight. Again, want to thank our guest, Greg Winfield. Give it up for Greg.
Yes.
DJ NFinite. And last but not least, Lee Pearson Jr., my fellow pioneer. Thank you all for being on this episode of the Vintage House Show. Make sure you tell all your family and friends in case they missed your appearance. Yes. And it'll be up on the Vintage House page on Facebook, on YouTube at thedjchannel.com, all spelled out, and on Twitch. Well, if you didn't catch it live, you missed it. At I am DJ Mega. Your main man Mega, I appreciate you all. And Justin can't get you in, but VD Girl, tell us about tonight's episode.
So this for me is quite a special night. I'm going to be sharing a video I worked on last night, actually at Lori Branch's house, down in her basement in the studio. She let me come in and put this little something together. So, you know, I give a couple nods to some classic house roots while bringing in some, you know, tech house, which I love. And yeah, it's going to be fun to kind of share this with you guys. And our second week doing the Artist Spotlight, which is a great opportunity to kind of get our community to have some eyes on some emerging talent and maybe folks that haven't had quite the same access. So I know I'm really excited to be sharing this week. And yeah, I see Justin's on here now, my co-host.
Yes.
Nice to see
you. Justin.
Hi, Justin.
Hey, everybody. How y'all doing?
What's going on, man?
Staying strong during these tough times.
Yeah.
So what do you got to say about your co-host and her spotlight tonight?
DD Girl is amazing. She has been DJing for some time now, since like younger, but she started live mixing in 2018. This is some background on her. I did a little research. She incorporates a large variety of music into her mixes, into her sets, including house music, funk, and disco. And she believes that house music and music in itself makes us feel at home in our bodies, which is something that we totally need right now during these times. And it's a healing type of music, and it's something that is going to bring us all together, though we can't be together like in person now. So, you know, she's using her talent to do healing and bring positivity in times that we need it the most.
And I used to have the best set time right before Vintage House every Wednesday. So that's kind of how I got into the fold. I was at Northwestern last year playing WNUR studios, and I had the honor of kind of blessing the airways before the legends got on. So it feels pretty exciting to be kind of returning to sharing some music through Vintage House. Is it true that people might have to refresh the feed, Kevin or Mega? I heard that they might have to. So just want to let anyone viewing know that if anything starts to look weird, just give it a refresh button and we'll go ahead and.
So we're, what happens is our show, and this is some topic that we spent a little bit of time on, the talk show portion of Vintage House tonight. We're going to end, and we'll restart with a fresh link here for the Vintage House Spotlight. So go to the Vintage House Show page on Facebook, and you'll find the link to Vintage House Spotlight. Because we have some digital rights management issues right on these streaming services, we want to ensure that if those pop up and we get bumped, that we can preserve the interview that we had tonight.
Okay.
All right. So thanks again to this awesome panel. And again, this is the next. They got next team.
They got next.
All right.
Justin, VD Girl, they got next. We're not going anywhere. Greg,
There's room for all of us.
Hey,
you got next too. You're in that younger set. Lee, keep doing what you're doing. Greg, really humbled and appreciative of you being on the show. DJ NFinite, thanks for making a reunion of the first Mega Takeover.
Yes.
VD, good to see you. I'll be tuned in to your set. Justin, keep it hot, brother.
All right, thanks, Sam.
You've been tuned in to the Vintage House Show with your main man, Mega, the Philosophical Grooves edition. We're back with our co-host, Lori Branch. Next Wednesday, January 20th, be here for her return, and we continue to embrace Lori with lots of love and peace. Our super duper producer, Lauren Lowry. Can't forget a shout out for Lauren, who's tuned in, running things from the background. Everyone be well, be safe.
Thank you.
Tune in to Vintage House Spotlight.
And Brother Kevin, thank you for the invite. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
Can I say one last thing? Shout out Craig Nem and John Yum and Angie, and don't forget to follow me, www.djinfinite.com.
All right, let's get into the spotlight, y'all.
All right.
Bye.